it does help, and I use it as a guideline more than anything, because you can plot a route, and like I said, the woods could be absolutely awful, or you could come upon a giant cliff that you had no idea was there. So you kind of have to just learn how to read the woods. You follow certain drainages, you see openings in the trees, and you just kind of let the woods guide you there. I mean, that's the best way to really describe it. There's times where you hit a wall, a cliff band, you simply can't get up. You got to backtrack and try to find another way. I've been in trees so thick that I can't get through them, or blow down fields, and it's absolutely miserable. I mean, it is, but it isn't, I do enjoy that challenge. So you just kind of regroup and try it again. And the nice thing with bushwhacking, going up is you kind of use the rule of up. A lot of these mountains, you just keep climbing up until you get to the summit. And like I said, I do have the GPS as a reference. There's been times out there where I feel like I'm going in the right direction, and then I look at my GPS and I'm going the complete opposite direction I thought I was. It's easy to get turned around out there, especially when you can't see. There's times you can't see 5 feet in front of you because the trees are so thick.
Sure, and that's what I'm saying. So, if you're trying to go to a bald spot, for example, you're not necessarily just going to the summit, or keep going up. You're going to a super specific spot.
Yeah.
So how do you plot that's where you're going? Because you could just go up to the summit, and then eventually you're there when you're not going up anymore, and I'm kind of on the summit. But if you're going to a very specific spot, what is your process to get to that specific spot as far as maybe the GPS or your map and compass? So once you plot it, how are you getting there?
So that's the nice thing. We've got it pretty easy nowadays, especially with Google Earth. Back in the day, guys were doing everything by map and compass, and a lot of these spots, they either just came across them by chance or completely missed them. So now, planning ahead, looking at Google Earth, using CalTopo, I can mark that bald spot as a waypoint, which then shows up on my GPS.
Okay.
So it gives me a little, it's just a little red flag, but it gives me something to shoot for. And it's hard because sometimes you get there and, on Google Earth, it looks like it's going to be this amazing open spot with, hopefully great views. And you get there and it's just a bald spot and there's trees that surround all of it and you don't get any view.
Sure.
But it's still worth checking out. It's neat to see that. And oftentimes you do get, something out of it. So yeah, if you ever look at my GPS track, it's just this squiggly line all over the mountain.
Sure. It's also neat to be able to do exactly what we're saying here is, I want to go here, this is where I'm going, and be able to get there. That's a nice little skill set to have, and the knowledge to do that is definitely a worthwhile skill to have when you spend so much time in the woods. Mr. Spencer, what's your process, brother?
It's not all that different. I think Sam might do a little bit more than I do.
Okay.
When I first started, yes, I did a lot of planning. I put a lot of waypoints in, and I pretty much stuck to them as much as I could. And then more and more I did it, the more I realized I don't really need to do that quite as much. I need to explore a little bit more, get out of this this process of going from one point to another. And now, step one, break out the map. Look at the features on the map, see where I want to go, see where I want to check it out. Nice thing about my map and my GPS is they look exactly the same. So when I'm looking at a map, in my office or at home or wherever, and I can get in the field and I can look at my GPS, it looks exactly, they mimic each other. So then I'll get to the trailhead or the closest point for where I need to go, and I'll just do a straight line coordinate to the top of the mountain and look at the GPS and go. I usually aim right for the steepest stuff I can find, because that's usually where the payoffs are. That's where the cliffs are. That's where the views are. That's where the cool features are. Cool. Sometimes a cave or whatnot. And I'll use ridges. I'll use creeks, I'll use drainages, I'll use gullies as my waypoint to get from point A to point B. And that way you don't really have to rely so much on GPS, because that's going to keep you going in the right direction. And as Sam mentioned, it's the rule of up. You know, if you know you're on the mountain, just think of it as an upside down cone. And no matter what side of the mountain you're on, as long as you know you're on it, it's going to eventually peter out to nothing, and you're there. But there is no rule of down. So
Sure.
if you stand on the top of a mountain, you got to know which side of the mountain you want to go down. Otherwise, you can head down the wrong side of the mountain, which I have done in the past. You know,
Yeah, I have as well.
Yeah.
You think you're
That's
going
scary.
the right way, and
Yeah.
you get halfway down, and you go, "Uh-oh, this isn't where I wanted to be."
and back up you go. And
Yeah.
Back to the top.
Yep.
Try again.
Yep.
back to your last known destination, last known point, which is. But the biggest thing of my step that I always do is I always print out a map of where I'm going with the general route that I'm going to be taking, and I'll leave it at home so that
Someone can come find you if you need that.
yeah, and I try to stick to it as close as I can. You know, you can't obviously, because like Sam was saying, one thing like look really good on a map or on Google Earth, but once you get in there, it's a totally different ball game. So I'm pretty close to where you need to be or where I need to be.
And what GPS do you use? Sam mentioned what he's using. What are you using?
Right now it's a Garmin 66 model. It's nice. Got a nice bigger screen for my elderly eyes.
Perfect.
So it's it works fantastic 90% of the time. I have a map and compass in my pack. I know how to use it, but going through some of these areas, it would take forever to go a mile with a map and compass. You know, shooting bearings every 5 minutes, it would take you forever. So GPS really, really does kind of dumbify it down a little bit, especially if you really know how to use the GPS to your advantage. It really does makes it a lot easier. As long as it's the knowledge of how to use it that takes some time, and it's always good to. I always invite a lot of people along too, and I never give them more than they can bite off. So that's another planning process. Is if who's going to go with me, that kind of changes where I'm going to go, because I want people to enjoy it as well. So, and it also gives people, that aren't used to doing this kind of stuff, it gives them the advantage of being with somebody that knows a little bit more, and you can see if they like it or not like it, and then they can learn along the way.
Which is incredible that you're offering that kind of tutelage to people. If you want to do, because a lot of people I would think go bushwhacking for the opposite. They want, let me get away from you, leave me alone, let me do my thing. But the fact that you're willing to show people how to do this, or kind of show them the ropes, incredible, truly incredible. Especially given the kind of mentality in the hiker community these days. That's, as a human being, I think that's a phenomenal thing that you're doing, that you're willing to do for people, as is Sam.
Yeah. No, I think we both enjoy getting out with people. What do they say? Misery loves company.
Yeah.
But it's
Oftentimes it's just the two of us. But,
Yeah.
As you mentioned to me.
it is hard to get people to go, even though you're telling them that, you know what, I've done my research. This is actually going to be a pretty easy bushwhack, nice introduction for you. It's still hard to get people's mentality away from wanting to be on a trail or trying to actually get them away from the 46 high peaks. They kind of get stuck in the routine and
Going
hard
on the
to get
same
out.
trails to the same summits over and over again. Sure.
So one thing too, kind of going back to GPSs, Spencer said he always leaves a map at home, and I always touch base with my parents or whoever it may be, let them know where I'm going to be. The nice thing with the InReach Explorer is when I start my hike, it actually sends out a text, friends, family, whoever I choose, and it gives them a topo map with my exact location on it. It shows my speed. They're able to text me, for any reason. It's a two-way satellite communicator, which is handy. Just gives them a little peace of mind. And at the same time, it gives me a little peace of mind, because I'm out there by myself a fair amount. And it's just nice knowing that someone knows my exact coordinates. I think that's really important. I mean, you have to be so safe out there. Just Spencer kind of touched base on it. There's very little room for error. If something goes wrong, Rangers aren't going to be able to ride a four-wheeler in to get you. I mean, they'd have a hard time carrying you out, honestly, with the trees being so thick. So any little bit you can do to ensure your safety, it's good. I mean, you can't rely. I see so many people using all trails. It may be fine on some shorter hikes. I haven't used it myself. But with these GPSs, they're far, superior to what you'd find on a cell phone, which is,
sure,
it's important.
Well, your cell phone is your lifeline too. It can be.
Yeah.
So if you're using your cell phone as your flashlight or as your GPS, you're getting rid of one of your lifelines. Even though a cell phone, use it to your advantage and have it with you, yes, and it's something that can reach you out to somebody if you do need help. So remember to use it for that.
Yeah, it's a good tool. It's a tool to have to maintain for sure. But when it becomes your one and only tool, that's when it's obviously a problem. It's funny too, because going with what you just said, people are scared to get off the trails and this and that. I often think back to when I hiked the high peaks, and I did them all in one summer with absolutely minimal experience or understanding of anything. I just went on the trails, no idea how to get up. No, if something went wrong, no idea how to fix anything. I was probably the most luckiest person you could ever imagine. One summer I just plowed through them. I was home, so I plowed through them. I also had no idea about all trails. I think I learned of the idea of all trails maybe towards like 35 or 36 into it. So I had no GPS. I had no way to text my wife, and I hike mostly solo. So if my wife doesn't know where I am, I have no way to tell her if everything's going well. It's definitely a safe idea and a good idea to invest in the GPS. Then you tell me it's like $2 a hike, or it's like you can look at it as like $1 a hike.
So the one I have, at least, it's pricey. I think retail's around $400 for the unit.
Worth it when your life is on the line, however.
And then it's $25 a month for the package that I have. So I'm in the woods all the time. Yeah, it breaks down to less than $2 a hike. And honestly, I see it as a life insurance policy.
That's exactly what
more
it
than
is,
a GPS. Yeah. Because with that, like I said, you have the two-way satellite communication. So you can text through it. Even if you don't have cell service, your phone's dead, you broke it, lost it, whatever, you still have your device, which I have securely strapped to my pack. It's not going anywhere. It does have an SOS feature, which is nice. It's basically a 24/7, like 911, essentially. And that'll send out my coordinates, exact coordinates, whereas cell phones, I believe it, bounces off a couple towers and gives you a general idea, but at least with that GPS, it's your exact spot. And even with that, you can then communicate with dispatch or the Rangers and let them know,
exactly
what's
where
going
you are.
on.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's pricey up front, but if this is something, that you're looking into, starting bushwhacking or even just on the trails. I mean, I used it all through my 46 and it was nice to have, even if you're, if you change plans, you can let someone know, hey, I'm bailing, or, you know what, it's a beautiful day, I'm going to stay up here for sunset, or I'm craving a cheeseburger for dinner. That's nice.
And I will be.
Yeah. So it's worth every penny for me, honestly. It's a good investment.
Sure. And it's a life insurance policy is a good way to look at it. I still think about the fact that I did, and I still go out as much as I do by myself. I obviously know a lot more about what I'm doing now than I did a few years ago, but having no way to tell anyone other than, and my cell phone dies immediately if I use it, whether it's like 50 degrees or 0, it dies. I need a new phone. But the fact that I have no way to get help if help is needed, or even let my wife know, hey, I'm here, I'm there. It's definitely a worthwhile investment in just your safety, because let's be honest, nothing's worth not coming back from just to go hiking.
Exactly. And the one thing, like, it's nice to have that as a safety feature, but you still need to take care of yourself out there. Because even if you send out a message saying, hey, I need help, could be